It's that time again for EverQuest Next Into the Portal. Your hosts for this evening are Geek Domo, Lock 6 Time, and Zaphos. Let's get to the show right about now. Hey! Hi, everybody. It's Geek Domo. I'm here with my friends Locke and Zaphos. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Doing pretty good. All right. So, no, I don't think this has been reddited, Dean. Sorry. Oh, I got to stop reading the chat. Okay, so thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. We are EQNext Into the Portal. We're going to be discussing EverQuest Next and what information that we have right now and how it's going to play out. And we have two experts here along with myself. It's not really quite an expert, but Locke and Zaphos. So, Locke, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. My name's Locke. I'm from merry old England. I've been making a few videos about EverQuest Next because I'm totally pumped. I'm totally hyped. And yeah, the good people at EQNext asked me if I wanted to come along and be part of this, and obviously, you know, I want to come and be part of this because it's awesome. Glad to be here.
Right on. We're the bearded dragons, Locke and I.
I had to shave. Social.
Yeah. He's
had to go outside.
You let us down, Zaf.
All right, Zaphos, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I mean, the long and short, I played my first major MMO in 1997, Ultima Online. I've been playing MMOs ever since. Fell in love with the EQ1. Oh, EQ1, oh my god, so many awesome memories. And drowning in Splitpaw was absolutely one of the best. So I've drowned in some very key places in Norath, and it's definitely going to be a big part of my future endeavors in EQNext. But yeah, I think that MMOs have been a big part of my life for a long time. Really love them, and so really looking forward to EQNext Landmark, and everything that they're going to do to revitalize Norath. Very excited.
Oh yeah, me too. All right, so I'm Geek Domo. Some of you here are watching. They're people who are in my tribe, the Domo tribe, and you're here to support the Domo. I appreciate it. For those who might not know, I do EverQuest Next videos along with a lot of other stuff on my YouTube channel, and yeah, so that's me. I'm here. So.
I do have a YouTube channel also at Clockwork Mining Core.
Yeah, when we get started here, I'll switch off into when everyone's talking, and you'll see everyone's Twitter and Facebook and YouTube links at the bottom of the page. So if you want to follow us, that'd be great. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off. We have a list of topics we're going to go through, and then when we're done with the topics, we're going to open it up to open Q&A because we have a lot of people here tonight watching. And so I'm sure everybody's got a ton of questions, and we are going to answer the best we can. None of us have exclusive actual access to the background stuff that's going on within EverQuest Next, so we're going to kind of play it by ear and go with what we've seen or heard or read. And so everything you see tonight is very subjective. It could happen, it might not happen. We'll see when we get there, actually. So, all right, so let's go on with the topics. So the first topic tonight is going to be SOE Live, which just happened 2 weeks ago, and which started off the whole EverQuest Next craziness that's been going on the internet. So what do you guys think of SOE Live? Did you watch the whole thing?
I did. I watched every last second of every video from SOE Live, and I loved every second of it. Right from the opening video where David Georgeson said, "We've been playing a lot of D&D for a long time." That really that made my ears prick up. I'm always, you know, looking for something a little bit different, and you know, something that's going to challenge me. So from that moment on, like, that was when the excitement started, and then obviously everything else, all the info started dropping, and I was all like dribbly. It was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a great show, and yet at the same time, I know myself and a lot of other people I know, a lot of friends, we started out thinking, you know, SOE Live, they're going to talk about EQNext, MMO, yeah, it's going to be another MMO, okay, you know, what can they really do that's going to be any different, right? I mean, where do they go with this? And then suddenly, boom, and you're like, jaw on the floor. It was like, wow, you know? It's like, did they just go there? Yeah, they did. Wow. So it was really revolutionary. And like I said before, having been a part of the revolution of MMOs that was EQ1, I mean, just to be here again and see them announce something that truly is revolutionary, man, so cool. Great show.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I was watching it, at first I thought the same exact thing. I have some friends who were trying to get me back into EverQuest again. They're like, oh, I got to play EQ2. And I played it for a while and I kind of got out of it. And I thought, oh, I don't know if I really even want to watch this thing from Sony because they've kind of let me down in the past more recently. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a good watch and I'll see what they say. And if it turns out really awesome, then I'll be excited. But until then, not so much. And so I started watching it, and from the minute they started talking voxels, same exact thing. I went, ooh, what's this?
Yeah.
Voxels?
As soon as they were like, "What? We'll just let you destroy the whole world," I was like, "Yep, I want to get in on that."
Exactly.
What was it that Dave Georgeson said? Wouldn't it be great if we could just blow everything up?
Yep.
I was like, I'm on board. I'm on board.
Exactly.
Fits with my agenda.
Destroy everything.
Yeah.
We can talk about that in a minute.
What do you look for in a game?
Yeah. I was thinking, somebody was talking about griefing. If say you're playing PvP and you can blow up the ground and knock somebody through to the next level down, I mean, that's just the ultimate type of griefing. The ground goes out from underneath you. So, yeah, with the destruction thing is...
Did you build a pit trap, like a spike trap? We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Oh, I know, but isn't that... Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole conversation right there.
Exactly. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. So, I think SOE Live was really good. I know Gamescom is this week. We're going to try to stream some of that stuff. When it happens, I'm going to be recording the whole damn thing because those of you watching my videos, I'm repeating the same intros over and over and over again because I've got nothing else to show. So more stuff that we can get from Gamescom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then following after that is going to be PAX. So we're going to get a lot of information crammed down our throats pretty quickly.
Hopefully. I feel like we're at that point where everyone's just kind of assimilated the information that we have. Like, if you look at the Reddit, it's much more like, it's much less, oh god, the sky is falling, they're ruining everything, why are they taking my EverQuest away? And it's a lot more, what is this going to mean for this? What's that going to mean for this? So I think we're ready for the next.
Would you a timely distraction, right, from the Holy Trinity discussion? Oh, spoiler. Yeah, exactly. And I think that we're approaching September. Talking timelines, we're approaching September, October, November, December, and we're supposed to get Landmark this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if you think, I suppose if you take Christmas into account, they're gonna have to give a release date soon. They've said they want to do a beta for it, so
right.
It's gotta be dropping soon, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're gonna probably open up the beta for Landmark fairly soon. I would think by end of September, October time frame, and then allow it to be or set it up to be released in around the Christmas time frame because that's the best time for them to release.
I think so. Get that Minecraft crowd on board. Tell your friends. Tell your friends. It's all voxels.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. I mean, I'm a Minecraft player, but I'm not like a crazy Minecraft player. But I have friends who are just hardcore. That's all they play. And talking to them about doing this with EverQuest Next, they're talking about getting out of Minecraft. Like they're just ready to leave.
Yeah, I think it's genius, right? Sorry, Locke, I was just going to jump in and I play Minecraft. I've been playing Minecraft this week in anticipation. I've been mastering my building skills with cubes, and mainly building drawbridge lava traps to kill skeletons and zombies, which is just crazy fun. But when you play Minecraft, it opens up all these options as you start thinking about what if they did that in EQNext? What if they had redstone? Or what if they had something similar? What if they did all these cool things? And then I don't know if you guys played Cube World, but Cube World, destructible voxels, building with voxels, crafting with voxels, you start to see the potential there in an actual RPG setting. You're thinking, oh man, transport this into NORAD? Are you kidding me right now? That could be cool. I think
the best way that I heard it described was if you take a template, like a Minecraft template that you'd use to build whatever you want, a huge castle, fortress, whatever,
right.
Because of the nature of the way that it's built, you can just take that template and drop that into Landmark. And if you've got the resources for it, you build it in exactly the same way because it's just cubes. You can smooth it off and make them larger and smaller, but ultimately you can take those Minecraft blocky graphics and move them into a world that, in my opinion, is absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to get into it Get your teeth in.
let's get into it right now, because that is the topic of our next. That's our next topic. We're going to start talking about Landmark. So Landmark. For those who are unfamiliar, Landmark comes out first, and it's going to be coming out, like we were just talking, sometime in this fall, early winter, and it's a pre-game to EverQuest Next. So what's going to happen with Landmark is you're going to be able to go into the EverQuest Next world, run around, check out everywhere. There's not going to be any monsters or any bad critters or anything like that. No questing. You're just going to be able to build. Just sort of like if you're in Minecraft and you're in the, what's that building mode called in Minecraft where you can just build? What's
Creative
that?
mode?
Creative mode. But I don't think you'll be able to fly. Maybe you can. But so that's what's coming up first.
Yeah.
I think you have to collect the resources as well, don't you? You have to go out mining and digging and such.
Chop down trees.
Yeah, I mean, not to jump ahead again, but I mean, I think there's just a lot of really cool features of Landmark I'm really excited about. One of the things I used to love in Ultima Online was the way I spent my time when I first played that game was by being a crafter. You know, I was a blacksmith, essentially. I crafted weapons for other players and armors and things. And my whole existence was about not getting killed by PKers, player killers, until I later became one. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, my favorite, right? And so it was avoiding those to get to the resources that I needed to, you know, go back to town and spend hours in town crafting this stuff. And I love that Landmark is kind of bringing a little bit of that with the crafting locations where you're going to be having a social experience, a social interaction with other players, you know, trading potential recipes, quote unquote, you know, maybe other things as well, and getting to interact with the community. And I think that's something that's been really missing from a lot of games. And, you know, of course, crafting's been missing from a lot of games. You know, any crafter that hasn't felt like a second-rate citizen in the last 10 years is, you know, tell me what game you're playing because I'm missing out, unless it was Star Wars Galaxies, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of really cool stuff that it's bringing to the table, but those are some of the ones I'm really excited about, getting back into that social interaction, becoming a known entity in the universe because of what you can do from a crafting point of view. That's really exciting.
What do you think, Locke?
I think we haven't even touched on one of the most exciting parts about Landmark yet, which is Player Studio, and the fact they've said in no uncertain terms that they want the players to be helping them build new Norath, and you know they want us to build assets for the game to put into the game. I think that's incredible. I'm building a dwarven steakhouse. Anyone that wants to come and help, you're very welcome. But isn't that an incredible thing? And it gives them so many tools during development. They can see what people like and what they don't in movement and things. They can do, you know, all the server architecture. That's, you know, a beta for that as well, because there's so much crossover between the two. Working out bugs in like a real live environment. It gives them so many options for what they're going to be able to do. And I think it's such a fantastic tool from our point of view and from the developers, and you know the two working together. Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. They're gonna, by the Player Studio being able to sell items that players make, they're gonna actually have another revenue stream, which is amazing too. Because we were talking about how this is probably gonna be a free-to-play game, and how is Sony gonna recoup their cost in running the servers and all the other things they have to do, and they can take a cut out of all of the Player Studio money that comes in, and I think somebody said as high as 60%. So if they sell something for $10, they're going to take $6 and you get $4, which is not bad if you're making things and you're putting them up there, and that's going to be awesome. And then also they're going to have the voting system where if you make something and then they say we want a cathedral or another building, we're going to put it up for voting, and everybody who makes them puts them up there, and you vote him in. That building is going to end up inside the actual game, which nobody has ever done before. I've never heard of another developer say, hey, build us a new building because we don't know what we want over here.
It's pretty genius, actually, when you really sit back and think about it. If you take it to the ultimate crowdsourced level, you could really be looking at a way of streamlining the production of the game, essentially. You're able to get assets that are already designed, see how they look in an actual game world environment on the Norath Landmark server, you know, direct the crowd as to what you want in terms of assets, and that allows the company to really drive the focus on the game mechanics and the things that are going to really make the game absolutely great. Because, you know, visually, environmentally, all those things are really, really important in a game, but we all know that gameplay is what it really boils down to. And letting the company focus on gameplay for the most part while we as the community drive as much of that kind of asset development, that could be something that's really, really cool. And again, never been done before, as you said, Joe. So I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then when you tie in, sorry to go a little bit off topic, but you tie in the idea of the voxel farm and story bricks idea, like the way they're going to be able to pump out content just by, they generate the land area, they put in the assets that have been created for them by the players and voted on by the players, so they're already invested in, and then they can people it with characters, with complex relationships, just, straight through the programming. I'm excited about, what they're going to be able to do in terms of building the world and creating a fresh and changing world for us to inhabit.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see something like, this is something that's going to run through my mind. So I believe that the way the Player Studio works, just go back to that comment for a sec, is you create templates for your designs, and those templates are sold. So the person purchasing your template then has to have the resources to complete that template, production, right?
Yeah.
Can I template a brick? Can I do it? Can I have that brick?
You can put things up for free, as far as I'm aware. So you can.
Can I do the 2-cent brick?
You're right.
Can it appear on every building in Norath? Can I be a brick tycoon? I want to corner the brick market.
If anyone could do it, Zaf, it's you. I believe in you.
I shouldn't give away my secrets, but between bricks, walls, mossy rocks, I have a list.
Yeah, that's something I should mention. If somebody might not know what we're talking about, when you put something up on the Player Studio, you actually get a cut. So if somebody were to use your brick, like he's talking about, and build a massive castle or something out of, and used 10,000 of his bricks,
right.
The cost of the item, say they sell that castle for $100, he's going to get 10,000 of that cut. So maybe 10,000 cents, or I don't know what.
No, that's if someone wants to pay for bricks to make a castle. I think if someone's making a castle,
you haven't seen my bricks.
Probably gonna.
He's got great bricks.
Where do you see my bricks?
Maybe a tower or like a fancy looking drawbridge that's quite complicated. Something like that probably.
Well, I think you do get to that point where people have a bigger vision and they're guild crafting, right? Because you can guild co-op craft as well. You can build these buildings. We'll talk about maybe later how that leads into player cities in EQNext. But, maybe they don't want to focus on the minutiae, the finer detail of, hey, I need 20 different kinds of bricks. Let's go to Zaphos House of Bricks and let's get those bricks, right?
He makes some great bricks.
Get a job lot.
You're Abe Froman Zaphos, the Brick King of Norath.
I was just hoping not to have to work again, but,
Yeah. No, they're actually, if you're a really amazing designer, there's probably ways you could make some good money in this game.
Someone will do it.
Yeah.
It'll come out. There'll be a news story, 3 months later that someone's made it their full-time job, and they'll be there with a giant check from SOE.
I know people that have made good money in Diablo 3 selling gear and stuff like that. So, can be done.
You translate that into Next, where you've paid for these things, assuming that transfers over, we assume it will, and then somebody destroys it, or an orc destroys it, which is great for me personally,
More bricks.
But,
it's always money and bricks.
I might even go into cohorts with the orcs at that point. But I'm just saying, because you have games like EVE Online that are true sandbox games that are putting up these big numbers of, $48,000 worth of assets destroyed in space, and this apparently is a good thing. So it's interesting to see how that real economy might play into EQNext itself and the type of mass guild activities that are going to sort of control a lot of the landscape to an extent. So pretty interesting potential. It's sort of becoming a true sandbox where, like Ultima Online or EVE Online, you really have no limits in what the players can do to influence the game world.
Absolutely. Yeah, and even if you're not a really creative person and maybe you just can't draw a straight line, you can just buy this stuff and set it up yourself too in your own little sandbox area. So there's a lot of growth here, like I can see. It's way beyond what most games have ever done. All right, so let's move on to our next topic. Topic number 3. Rallying calls and how will they play into starting areas. Have you guys seen the article that just came out? The tattered notes from SOE.
Notebook from Massively, yeah.
Yeah. And basically, just filling people who might not have seen it, if what they were saying is it's going to be a little bit like, what's that game from Sony where the run-around shooting game? It just came out.
PlanetSide 2.
PlanetSide 2, thank you. In PlanetSide 2, you drop in and you land right where all the action's going. That's what's going to happen here. I don't think they're going to drop you in from a pod from space, but you're going to start off in a rallying call. Like, that's where you're going to spawn. You're not going to start off in the major city necessarily, because what they were saying is the major city might actually have been overrun by dragons by the time that you actually start playing the game, which would be really bad for a newbie to land in an area that has baby dragons or adult dragons eating you. It's not good for retention.
Probably not wise.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of the rallying calls and all that?
I think as a way to get new players, it's great. You know, it creates a sense of the world changing and evolving. You know, in a sandbox, you want to put people near something that they can immediately contribute to. So, you know, they can run out of the city, start mining rocks or hacking down trees and getting involved. On the other hand, I'm not sold on the whole rallying call thing until we get more details and we see more about it. I'm a little bit worried it's gonna take away from certain sandbox elements rather than adding to them or building on top of them. So I guess wait and see is my attitude. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, but it's definitely the thing I'm most shaky about that we've learned so far.
Is it the whole problem with public quests that happened in Warhammer Online and that sort of thing, where it didn't really work out the best?
Well, that's the thing, like how, you know, they've said they wanted them to last months and everything, so it gives people a goal that is based in PvE, so they don't immediately have to, you don't have to find a group to be able to do things, which is good for when players first come out, and it'll give you like very directed, simple tasks to do. But on the other hand, I feel, will that very directed, very focused task take away from, what Zaphos was just talking about the ability of players to define how they want the world to run and function? Because, it was one thing we got from SOE Live was that there's no back and forth with these rallying calls. It's very much like this thing is happening, so you can either get involved and contribute with it, or you can ignore the fact that it's there. And I think I understand why they put it in, but I think they need to. It's something that I'm skeptical about, and I think they need to be careful about implementation.
What do you think, Zaphos?
Yeah, I mean, I see the genius behind it. I agree with Locke on a lot of points there. The genius behind it is a lot of players, especially players that come from different genres of games, like World of Warcraft, for example, are going to look for some kind of direction. You get in the game, and the first question is, what do I do? And in a sandbox question, a sandbox game rather, the answer is whatever you want. And that's really disconcerting for a lot of people, especially when we've been trained for the last 10 years to think, oh, there's no freedom here. I have to follow a linear path. And so the rallying system creates that linear path that introduces sandbox elements while at the same time giving some general direction to players. I think that's a really good thing. On the other hand, I totally agree with what Locke said. It could potentially drive players to become quote-unquote dependent or lazy to the point of, even myself, I've seen it happen from time to time, saying, I don't want to go off and have to create my adventure now. Just give me another one of these rallying things. I'll wait for that, right? It could potentially do that. Done right, though, I think it'll introduce you to sandbox elements, and you'll naturally start to be engaged in those, and then you'll start to make your own way. I think that's how a true rallying call will be successful. It'll help shape the world. It'll help drive new players on, in where to go and how to learn the game in a tutorial sense. It'll also create, persistent changes, and it will also allow players to change the world. But at its core, it should be a way to introduce players or remind players what sandbox elements exist and how to go engage them.
Mm-hmm. They said that you don't even necessarily have to engage with the rallying call that minute. They said if you land in that area, you could turn to the west and just run. And if you start killing monsters out in the woods somewhere, as what most people would probably want to do if they aren't interested in doing the rallying call, you could just start doing that, and it would still affect what's happening back at the rallying call, because everything that happens within a major area, they said, around that rallying call will affect the rallying call in some way.
And that's a true mark of a sandbox game. Like, there's a lot of games claiming to be sandbox, they're not, because their systems are isolated, they're siloed, as we would say. Mm-hmm. They're stuck separately, apart from each other, and don't interact. But when you have a game that really allows you to focus on, universal changes, there's ripple effects throughout the game universe. That's truly sandbox. Being able to just turn and go wherever you want and have that somehow impact what's currently happening That's really, really important. So that to me gets me really excited because there's very few games who've done that successfully, and they're really amazing when they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Go ahead, Locke.
So I was going to say the way that I would really like it to be implemented is if it becomes a little center, a little bubble, and a safe place for new players to emerge into the world, and then it becomes a center of population. And from what we know about the way the AI is going to work, that will discourage, big nasty activity in the area. So you have this calm little center, and then outwards from that, you create the frontier environments where, so if you go away, because I think it's important, even in a sandbox, I think it's important to have that kind of structure where you know where to go to find certain things. So in that little bubble, you're gonna find new player friendly content, and then as you go further away into the wilderness, away from the built up areas, away from the population centers, you get the bigger, badder nasties, but also the bigger, shinier loot that you want to take back, that then perhaps gives a bigger bonus to the rallying call for some reason. So you still have an opportunity to do something, far away and scary that can then loop back into it as well.
That brings up an interesting point about what's going to trigger different effects. I think, personally, Sony is giving a big middle finger to Noxic, Wowhead, sites like that, which rely on the fact that games are stagnant, and if you want to complete X, you have to do Y, and then Z, and then they all together will give you a reward, and this is the exact reward you're going to get. And this game it's so open and sandbox, they're just like, every single server is going to have a different trigger that's going to make it go, and they're not going to tell you what that trigger was. And so when these rallying calls are being done, there is no guide that could be followed that's going to say you have to kill these orcs 27 times and then it'll open up this. And then something might happen too where that particular city that you might have been building is going to be gone and they're going to have to do it again, or it might stay permanently. Like you might rebuild Halas 4 times and then at the 4th time it's there forever. There's no set thing that's going to unlock everything in this game, and I think that's Sony basically saying, look, we don't want you having to go out to different websites to figure out how to play our game, and that has a little bit something to do with the Rose song, which we can talk a little bit about later on, with that being like a guidebook that's going to guide people through this game.
I think what's really, really important about a game like this, and it has been seen in games like Star Wars Galaxies and Ultima Online, is that players that stay involved with the community, that stay involved with the forums, it creates, there's a living, breathing world, not just an economy, but a living, breathing world of politics, alliances, events, systems, changes, things that happen when you're not there or not online, and you need to be aware of them. Whether that city got taken over, destroyed or whatever, or there was an invasion or something like that, and it creates historical context to the game world on a server-by-server basis. And the players can really leverage that to be more successful, and players that get more involved can be more successful, more influential. And new players have a lot to learn when they come in, and there's a certain amount of respect that's given to the elders of the community who have been around since the early days and have progressed and changed the world. And that sort of harkens back to the old EQ1 and seeing a full, max leveled character with all his AAs or whatever, alternate advancement points. It was a thing of beauty and awe, when you were a certain level, because it was such a journey to get there. Not having levels in EQNext, seeing these players that have really influenced the game world is going to be really exciting. I think that's going to be something the community really embraces.
I would say probably everybody watching us right now are all going to be in the early beta test, or maybe not early beta test, but at least in the game when it very first starts. And everybody who's watching right now is so into this game, you're going to be sort of the future historians that they keep talking about, that when people join up 5 years from now and start playing the game, like, what was it like back in the beginning? Well, I was there when we built Halas, and it's now a city that you can just play in, but back then we had to build it.
All this was fields.
All of
we
this
had to walk 10 miles a day just to get oak wood lumber.
In the snow.
And I had to fight off kobolds every night for my dinner.
Yeah.
We had to sleep
You guys have it easy.
Not like today with your flying mounts. Oh
yeah. We'll get into that. Let's move on to the next one then. Our next topic is crafting, making it a viable piece of the world. All right. So what do you guys think? Go ahead, Locke. You go first. Tell us what you think about crafting. You're a crafter.
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of it, especially with the sandbox elements, what I'd really like to see is, the way that Eve Marketplace works. So the auction houses can be accessed from anywhere, but you have satellite places, so you have to go to those places to actually pick up the stuff or to buy it for certain prices. And if you make the journey an important part of that process, and if you make the materials have to be moved. I did a whole video on this if anyone wants to go and watch it. But my idea is I'd like to see the economy work in such a way where it is actually difficult to move materials around the world. If you're moving a lot of logs or a lot of planks, stone, different types of ore or whatever, you have to physically move that. It's not stacked up in your little backpack and you're just twinkling through the forest. You have to get people together and you have to move it. And if you want, perhaps that creates like niche markets and it creates opportunities for all kinds of emergent gameplay. Merchants, bankers, power traders. It allows people to make guilds which their sole purpose is a courier service. Then you get bandits, you get scout. And I think, to me, that whole world needs to exist before you can even talk about crafting being an important part, because then the white hot center of all of that is the guy that can make the exact thing that you want, which is going to reduce the cooldown on your teleport far enough so you can immediately use your backstab and take 50% of the mob's health off.
Right.
And that's when I think of crafting in a sandbox game. I think of that whole global way of the game being set up. They say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
All right, Zaphos, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's Return of the Crafter. I think it's finally time the crafter gets, to be an integral part of the game world. I agree with everything Locke said. I mean, there's all these other economical, components to it, but I think it's time the crafter comes back and can be, a central part of the game world, can really do things in the game world, be important, be recognized. I just hope they allow you to put your name on things that you craft, like they did in Ultima Online. That's a phenomenally cool system, because when you're looking at your inventory, you're looking at your items, and you see that, these cool people that crafted your stuff, they become legendary. And it's really, really a cool system. It's a really great way to, be a part of the community, is to be a well-known crafter. And as I said before, a lot of games have just really made a mess of this over the years. All the MMOs that have, made crafting a secondary function, something that's just a second-rate part of the game. It's a necessary evil. If you look at how crafting works in Cube World, where you can take individual voxels and expand your weapon. So you go to the crafting station, you put your weapon in it, and you create. You take voxels that you found in the world that have different properties and apply them to your weapon, and your weapon changes accordingly, not just in stats and effects, but also in look and feel.
Yeah, you put spikes on your sword.
Yeah, that is so cool, right? I mean, and now take that to a game like EQNext, where they're really, really raising the bar and creating a new genre. That's going to be something that could be done. Amazing things could be done. Imagine armor that's branded with your logo or something like that.
That would be awesome.
And your logo actually gives stat benefits. I don't know, just brain dumping. But I think it's going to be really awesome. I think it's going to be an amazing part of the game world that is actually going to have influential repercussions on the whole of the game's history, because it's going to affect the buildings that are erected, the weapons that we use, the armor that we have, the clothes that we wear. And I think that's all going to be really, really awesome. So if you're a crafter, your day is coming.
Yeah, there's been
I hope there's fashion.
Yeah.
I hope there's an expansion that releases like a new type of metal that's a different color, and suddenly everyone wants it all tacky, and then there's just like little accents and things. That'd be cool.
Well, I'm hoping it's a little bit like Guild Wars in the respect that like even the fashion thing you were just talking about, that you can sort of customize the way your character looks, and it all requires crafters who can make just that one thing, that that really cool looking robe or a funny hat or whatever, that can set your character apart from everybody else. And I don't know. I guess what games do you guys think were the best crafting games in recent history? Because I'm trying to think of some of the better ones, and some of the more modern ones. Even in Guild Wars, was kind of a problem to me, Guild Wars 2, was everything you gathered you could send back to the bank, and you never even had to go anywhere to do it. And you had this big pile of stuff, and some things worked and some things didn't. But I did like their discovery system, which I thought was kind of cool when you found out a new recipe. But it wasn't complete discovery because everybody else found it too. So it wasn't like you made up a recipe that nobody else could think of. But yeah, so what do you guys think?
They touted this discovery system, but it turned out it was a very linear thing. Like as soon as you worked out the kind of pattern to it, it wasn't discovery at all. It was clicking on things, and that's my biggest problem with crafting is you just amass all of this stuff very easily, you know, while you're doing what you would normally be doing, and then you click on a button, you click, and then you're a level 400 crafter. Woo, well done. And then you make your starter set of gear, and then it's nothing. It's nothing else because everyone else makes their own starter set of gear, and there's nothing else that's worth making because the regular mobs drop loot that's just as good. So I don't know. I agree. I think Guild Wars 2 was a step in the right direction considering games that had come previously and the kind of stacked it.
Yeah.
It was, Warcraft, just keep clicking until you're there.
Spend a lot of your money. It was a money sink.
It's just not. It's not fun, is it? It's not an enjoyable thing. You don't feel like you're making something, and then when you do make it, it's just vendor trash, and no one wants it, and it's not fun. It's depressing.
That's what I was going to say.
In my opinion,
it has to be something that is epic and cool that you made. Now, I don't know if they can really do that with a number of models, but this is something I haven't really figured out yet. I believe it's going to be using a different engine for the characters than it is for the landscape. The landscape is going to be the jungle voxel game, or the jungle. Is it jungle voxel? Voxel jungle? What's it called? The engine for the voxels part?
Voxel farm.
Voxel farm. Sorry, and Voxel farm area. Is going to be for the landscape, but the characters are going to be a different one. PlanetSide 2, maybe. I don't know the exact engine. But if it's a polygon-based character, then can you really make different shaped weapons and all that because it's predefined by the polygons? I don't know. But I do want to see some unique stuff. I guess that's the whole point of what I was trying to say is if it's player-made and it looks cool, I want to wear it. I don't necessarily think that it has to be something that is a cookie-cutter design that every single person has. If you're a high-level crafter, I want you to be able to make something that just looks epic compared to everybody else's gear. And you're like, wow, where'd you get that? Oh, I got that from Geek Domo. He's a crazy crafter, sits over in a cave.
I think there's two games that, SOE, Sony Live Entertainment, already has, in their history that, really, we can learn from. Star Wars Galaxies, EverQuest 2. Two really great crafting systems, and Ultima Online had one of the best crafting systems that's been seen, to date. Games like Darkfall and Holy Wars have really good crafting systems, but they're so cumbersome that they're just irritating. I think Ultima Online did a fantastic job with the crafting system, and I've said many times, it was so integral to the entire economy of the game. It was a true player-driven economy. EVE Online, of course, is some of the best crafting around. It's not true crafting in the sense you might think of a fantasy universe, crafting swords on the anvil or whatever. Smelting iron was one of my favorite pastimes in Ultima Online. But there are similar things in EVE Online. It has that same player-driven economy and the ability to create, space stations and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, looking at EQ2, for example, EQ2's crafting system was pretty unique. It was really ahead of its time, but I didn't want to feel like Mickey Mouse and Fantasia, which is what I ended up feeling like a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. I didn't really enjoy that feeling. So I like a more serious crafting system. I think Star Wars Galaxies is probably one of the best, semi-modern, MMOs that have done crafting, and it's just a real standout from the crowd.
Well, it's encouraging that SWG has been referenced by the devs, I believe. I can't think of the quote off the top of my head, but when they talked about crafting, they said, it will be as integral to the game as Star Wars Galaxies. So, fingers crossed.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was some amazing stuff in Star Wars Galaxies. That was one of the things I hated about Star Wars Galaxies. After it went over that cliff and it just never came back, I was missing all the fun stuff I could do, like when I was crafting. No, don't do that, no, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun crafting while I was there, but then after that I was like, okay, I'm gone.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to our next topic. Holy Trinity broken. Can it work with
Oh, man.
many other games failing to transition? All right, so this is a really hot topic, right? Okay. What do you guys think? Holy Trinity.
I don't want to make everyone mad.
No, say what you want. That's all right. Go ahead, Locke. You open up then. You tell us what you think of the Holy Trinity being broken in this game or other games like it.
Before Guild Wars 2 came out, I was very hyped for that. They said they weren't going to have Trinity. And I said, that's absolutely brilliant. I think that's a step in the right direction. I think the tech exists, but we don't need it anymore. We can do something much more interesting and engaging, and that really creates roles for players. Then Guild Wars 2 came out, and for me, the encounters didn't support the fact that there was no Trinity. The encounters were all designed for a Trinity system, like they were designed in the same way, and there was obviously some kind of disconnect there in the program. But it was disappointed, and it was disappointing, and it put a lot of people off the game, and it's put a hell of a lot of people off the Trinity system. And if you look on forums and Reddit, people always say, "Oh, in Guild Wars 2, it's a Zergy mess." So when EQN does it, it's a Zergy mess. I'm not saying that's definitely not going to happen, but I'm saying the issue isn't with combat. Not having a Trinity can be a brilliant thing, and it is what developers should be trying to do with games like this, in my opinion. But they should. And I think the issue lies with encounter design, and can you make encounters engaging enough that everyone in a group has a very specific and focused role. But you don't end up with a cookie cutter situation where instead of a holy trinity, you just have a holy pentagon. And it's the same thing. And to me, it all comes down to encounter design, and we've been hearing very encouraging things on that front as well.
All right, Zaphos, what do you think?
Rant.
So
it's okay. Get off the box. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm down. Cool it down.
This might be weird. So pull me back if it's weird.
All right, go for it, man.
I saw this story in the BBC News. Of course, it would be in the BBC News, right? About polyamorphous relationships, and it's about
polyamorous.
Polyamorphous. No, animals. Sorry, polyamorous. And thanks, Locke. You probably read the same story. And I think it was really interesting because it was about these couples that were, there were like 4 of them living together, but there were 3 separate relationships. And they're like one girl had 3 different guys she was dating, and she was telling her husband about it, and it was really weird. But they've all these multiple relationships stemming out from the same group of individuals. I sort of see the Holy Trinity in the same way. Instead of having defined roles, husband and wife, or having defined roles, you suddenly have the ability to create an infinitely complex set of differing roles. The Holy Trinity is actually a method of forcing you to play a game in a certain way. It is also deeply limiting on the way in which the enemy AI, or lack thereof, can be written, because it has to be written around those roles. Instead of those roles being written around the AI, which is what originally happened actually, now today, new games have written player capabilities and player reactions and expected reactions and scripting around, all this stuff. And it's kind of taken, a backwards approach. What I would like to see is the Holy Trinity gone, and I think it's great that it's going to be gone. I think having flexibility and having new roles available is awesome. And we're talking about a world with different levels of tactical combat. The fact that you can raise a stone wall out of the ground, and that wall is not an energy field, it's an actual voxel-based physical part of the landmass. You've now created a wall. That creates different types of tactics and different types of environmental effects that didn't exist before. The Holy Trinity, again, gave players roles in a role-defined world. But when you don't have a role-defined world, there's less need for those specific types of activities to happen in a very linear sense. So I think people are going to really like it. It's complex and it's scary and it's weird. And there's a lot of people that say, but I love healing, I'm a healer. Hey guys, I'm one of those healers. I love healing. I've played a healer in almost every game. In EverQuest 1, one of my favorite characters was my cleric, right? I absolutely love having that sense of contributing. But I think that you're still going to be able to do that, and do that in new and really exciting ways. The fact that you can have 40 character classes and you can multi-class allows you to decide just how much of an advantage you want to bring to a group, for example. You can decide, I'm going to do this combination, I'm going to build it this way, and more importantly, I'm going to gear it out this way. and that's going to make me be able to add so much value to this group. You know, like we saw the example of the anti-caster with mana burn and stealth attack and all this other kind of stuff, you know, de-summoning spells. That's highly group focused. It doesn't get any more group focused. That character is completely useless out in the world alone. They can do nothing. They have no attacks and no abilities that really speak to a, you know, two-handed sword wielding axe that's coming, orc that's coming at them, you know, from the trees. What are they going to do? De-summon it? You know, mana burn it? You know, it's like, that is a very specific example of a group function that's going to probably be essential, but isn't necessarily required. And I think it's about understanding that the world is going to demand players understand what roles to play, but it isn't going to require them to play specific roles.
Right. A good example of this is the really crazy advent of MOBA games. Okay? In a MOBA game,
I was just about to say the same thing.
LOL, Smite, whatever game you play, there are sort of predefined... I'm a Smite player right here. There are predefined roles to an extent, but you're not stuck as just the healer. You have a lot of other damaging spells that you can do, and as a group you can take out other types of mobs, or you can play out players, you can take out the creeps, whatever, and it's very variable. There's no set defined way that you actually have to play, and it's left a lot up to the players to be as creative as they want to be, and I think that's kind of the way they're gearing EverQuest Next to be like, is more of a MOBA type of combat, where you can be a healer, you can, like Cupid in Smite, you know, he throws out heals, but then you turn right around and you can do damage, or you can throw up a shield preventing the guys from coming at you, or whatever. All of that's right out in the open, and I think that's what they're trying to shoot for, personally.
I think, you know, you can never say that there aren't roles in those MOBA games as well, which I think is important. I think the whole no Trinity thing, the people that are scared about it, what they're really afraid of is, you know, it all being very homogenized and just straight down the middle, and everyone's just DPSing, which is, in my opinion, how it ended up in Guild Wars 2, where there's no roles at all, and, you know, you might as well be there by yourself. Whereas in a MOBA, everyone has a role and everyone has a specific function by themselves and paired with one and in a whole team fight. And I hope that's the kind of thing that we see in this game. And, you know, like the limited action bar as well. They say, you know, 8 abilities. Look at what MOBAs do with 4 and then, you know, some weapon abilities. No one would say that combat in League of Legends isn't exciting or fun. And imagine that kind of combat, but in an MMO setting, you know, with the third-person camera and the way that you move your character and the way that positioning works, and then add in the fact that it's a destructible environment. That to me sounds like a very compelling game. Something new, something different that hasn't been tested, but it sounds very compelling and definitely something that I want to play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, that's good. The Holy Trinity is definitely a touchy subject, and we don't know for sure exactly how this is going to work out. The producers of EverQuest Next have been very vague about it, and it is sort of a touchy subject. It sets off a lot of people's anger, and it's not until we actually get into the game before we can figure out whether or not this is what they've designed is going to work the way they intended or not. Has to do a lot with the way the mobs are set up through the story bricks. You know, each mob, they were saying it's not going to be stronger. It's not like you're going to attack a mob that now has 3 million hit points versus 1 million hit points for a normal high level mob. It's that the dumb orc guy who carries the logs back, all he can think of is smash, you know? And so when you go to fight him, he's like, smash, smash, oh, I can't smash, I'm dead. And where the orc boss, might be more like, you know, as soon as you start attacking him, he'll figure out, okay, if I can root this guy, I'll snare him, and then I'm going to run over here, I'm going to poke him in the back, and then I'm going to run back here, and I'm going to fight off this guy, and if this guy's putting a shield up, I'm going to make sure I circle around the back of him. So the bosses are going to be a lot more intelligent and not just stronger, which I think is key.
Train the healer. Yeah. Oh God, there's no healer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to our next topic. We'll come back to that later. Number 6, scaling difficulty of AI, which I was just leading into a little bit there.
Beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful segue? You said I did that?
He's a pro. He's a pro.
It's amazing.
All right, so I just basically talked about what I thought about it. Go ahead, Locke. It's your turn.
Let's do it. Scaling and AI. I think we don't know enough about how the AI is going to work. I think AI can be sophisticated enough to to warrant like various advanced tactics and things. I think what it comes down to is having AI that will use a similar group tactic to a group. And I want to go back to what I was talking about way before, many moons ago, when we were talking about rallying calls, which is the idea of you have the safe areas where there's a lot of players, and they said, the AI is going to be aware that this is a dangerous place for them to go. So they're going to stay away from it, and they're going to have their own strongholds and everything. So what it takes us as players, if we go out on solo, maybe we can go into the woods and we can pick off the odd goblin hunting party or so on and so forth. But then we travel a bit further, and maybe there's a little orc camp, and it's too much for us to handle alone. So we go back and we get a group and we go, okay, they've got the big guy with the club, so we're going to have to take him out, and they've got a shaman who's going to be doing this and that, and we have to plan the encounter around what we're facing. And then you go there and they run away, and you like chase them down, and then you realize there's the massive orc city is there, so it becomes like this big drive of players, because we all want to get into the orc camp, because we all want the badass orc trophies and like huge painted skulls that they've got to go on the front of our house, so everyone knows that we big ballin'. And it all then it kind of snowballs off of that. And I think what I really want to see is in these frontier environments that you decide your own level of involvement in the world. Mm-hmm. If you want to go out and just solo quest and just one-on-one mobs, that's fine. If you want to go and fight the big bad dragon at the top of the mountain that's causing earthquakes and lava rivers and everything, which is blocking safe transport between two cities, that's what I want to do. Right, I want to go fight the dragon in the mountain, and it's going to take a hell of a lot of my buddies and a hell of a lot of planning to be able to do that. Will the AI support the combat? I think if the AI supports the world in the way that they've said Storybricks can, that's GG. I'm out. That's me. I might as well leave planet Earth, because that's the game I've been wanting to play ever since I was a wee lad.
Give me an IV going in my arm. I'll wear a diaper. I'll be all set. I won't move for a week.
Just a hole in the chair, mate. You're casual.
Just like our Cartman did in that Make Love Not Warcraft episode.
Yeah, I love that.
Ma! All right, Zavos, what do you think?
Yeah, scaling AI, that's the holy grail, right? I mean, basically, the way that games work today is you go out into the universe and you say, you know what, there's a guy, he's all alone. Well, I mean, there's 5,000 guys behind him, but they don't really care that much. They're all the same tribe, they're all the same army, but that one guy, I'm going to kill him. Actually, I'm going to kill all 5,000, but I'm just going to do it one at a time. Because they don't really care that much. Clearly they're underpaid and they're non-unionized. So we're just going to walk in and kill them all. And I'm going to do it solo. Because, like I said, one at a time, what's the risk? That's the current sort of state of where games have been going, and it's really silly. There's no immersion in the fact that you can walk up to 5,000 monsters or enemies and they just don't blink an eye when you kill off one of their buddies. That was not the case in EverQuest 1. EverQuest 1, creatures were a lot more social. Mm-hmm. In fact, they just got outright antsy at you, or just like, I just don't like you, I'm just going to attack you right now.
Right.
So that was kind of really exciting, because you didn't quite know where things were going to go. When you have a game with this kind of AI, that 5,000 see you coming, the one runs back, and they all run at you, potentially. That's a little more scary, right?
Which also, if I can interject, brings in player roles again, because if you have stealthy type characters or sniper type characters, perhaps you can take out those sentries of a particular area that, maybe their mob design. This is something I wanted to talk about, actually, just mob design when it comes to encounters.
Go ahead, we got time.
Well, you could have, in a fortress, you could have mob types that were sentry mob types, and what they did, they had a long, wide field of vision, and it was their job to look at you and see you far away and then raise the alarm. Right. So if you could take those guys out, then there's no alarm raised, and you get the element of surprise. Whereas if you just come like striding up to the front and the alarm gets raised, and all the AI inside, they know what's coming, so they close the gates and they get to the fortifications or whatever. That's another thing that could that could be done with AI. And mob types as well. Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of games, the reason why the roles are restricted is because the encounter design. A lot of mobs do the same thing. You tend to get either a melee mob that's going to run to you and hit you, and then go, oh crap, and try and run away, or you get a ranged mob that's going to stand there and shoot at you, with magic or whatever, until you run towards it and hit it, and until it's dead. Whereas, why don't we have, there's a guy who makes amazing Guild Wars 2 videos. His channel is I Am One and I Am Legion. His name's Nemesis. Absolutely incredible videos he makes. But he talks about this in one of his videos where he's like, what if you had a big sort of, like a Queen Ant type mob that spawned lots and lots of tiny swarmy mobs. So area of effect became a very important part of your combat, because you had to take out these big areas, and then you had other mobs that were very, very high hit points, but like didn't really attack very much, but just they were physical barriers in the way that tanks are. So you need to either physically move them out of the way or just like burst them down single target. And he comes up with a lot more suggestions than I do. Very fast attacking ones, siege like ones, and that's another thing that we haven't seen in games. And hopefully, I say hopefully so much, but I'm an optimistic type of guy. Fingers crossed we can see that kind of variety in mob types, and that will encourage use of different roles in parties as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
What I should have said in the beginning was explain a little bit about the story bricks, because some people watching might not know what we mean. So, so it's after the fact, but I'll still cover it. Basically, story bricks, the way they have it set up is you're going to have a series of interlocking relationships between the monsters, the other NPCs, and the player. So what ends up happening is the brick, it's in the actual UI, it's sort of a visual UI that they built for the story brick, and they put the bricks together, and if this person has a wife and he's a jealous type, what ends up happening is if you talk with the wife all the time, the guy will see you always talking to his wife, and it's going to trigger that jealous brick, and then he's then become really hostile towards you. And so each NPC, mob, and player in the game is going to have these bricks built up behind them, and they're going to interact with the environment around it. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about the story bricks. So how it's going to work, we don't know exactly yet, but I have seen some tech demos, and it's brilliant. It's just amazing what they can do with these different bricks and the interrelationships for everything. They can build in wants
and needs as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I just want to say that. Yeah, it can build in the wants and needs. So if we're like right there, man, we got the beard going, and we got the right there. We're all over the place. But yeah, so if a monster really loves gold, and you're walking by with a gold sword, he's going to come after you first, because that's what he likes. And if they're hungry, they might become more hostile, and they'll charge into the village more often, or whatever. There's a whole millions of different things that can be built in, and it's all interrelated, and it's very complex. It's not the scripted thing that we've had in other MMOs where you have, at 10% of the boss, he's going to do this, and at 2 minutes into the fight, this is going to happen. None of that. They're just going to be an AI that is built around these relationships and wants and needs. He might go, you know what? I'm losing. I'm going to take off, and he hauls ass and runs away, which has never happened before either. Usually the boss stays and fights till the death. Maybe that's what this particular boss is supposed to do, but maybe this one isn't. Maybe this guy's a coward when he gets down low, and you're going to have to chase him down. So yeah, that's what we're talking about with the AI and the story bricks. So you were going to say something, Zaphos? I cut you off when I started my little...
That's okay. Just go ahead. Yeah, be like that. Just be like that. Jerk. No, I think that
show one.
I do think that I was just gonna say I do think the scaling AI makes all the difference in the world. When you fight an orc that has a very low IQ, it sees something shiny and wants to take it out. If that's what orcs were like, I'm not saying they are. It could be something else. They could be super intelligent, but they go after it and they attack and they don't stop until either they die or you die. But when you fight something a little more complex, like a Void Titan or whatever that thing was we saw in the demo, or an elemental or a dragon, those things have a much, much, much higher level of intelligence and could lead you into traps just like you do them. They could employ strategy and all sorts of things, and it'll be really exciting, I think, to see the different types of AI capabilities that different enemies have in the game, and to see how they execute on those strategies based on what you're doing and so forth and so on. So I think it's going to be a whole nother dimension to the game. It'll be exciting just to get attacked, just to see what that monster does. And in fact, that'll be a big part of the learning curve. It'll be like, oh man, I drew the short straw. All right, guys, see you back at spawn point. Here we go. Take notes. You know, and it's like, all right, Zaphos is up. Run into the dragon. You know,
you gotta yell at Leroy Jenkins at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's going to be really cool. Open up a lot of options, and but it's going to be really exciting too. I hope this is slightly related, but unrelated as well. I hope that there's no indication how difficult monsters are, or how difficult enemies are, or how smart they are.
You don't want to see red text, yellow text?
Oh man, no con system. It should just be a case of, should we fight it? I don't know. Do you want to fight it? I don't know. You want to fight it?
It looks scary.
Let's fight it. And then yeah, exactly.
You know what I want a rat or a warthog or something to be easier to fight than an ogre. That's what I want to see. I don't want a boar to be Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris's personal protege. Just because I'm in a level 80 area. That's it for me. I don't know about that. I think whether it's more interesting though, isn't it? If you think like, is this guy going to be hostile to me? Because it's like Skyrim, isn't it? The amount of times you walk up on forts and you're like, is that a bandit? Looks like a bandit. Might be a bandit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
So he puts an arrow in your head and you're like, he's a bandit. Yeah.
He's a bandit.
He's made me dead. Obviously,
he's got friends. Oh man, this is getting worse by the second. And I'm being eaten by a bear. Oh man, it's just like, there's a lot of really good options, I think.
All right. Well, you guys want to open it up to some Q&A?
Let's do it, man. I want to talk to some people.
All right,
awesome questions.
All right. So everybody in the chat that's here right now, go ahead and type in question in a bracket with capital letters and a nice font, and put the question afterwards, and then we will get to the questions in turn. We've been tracking them down. Do you have them, Locke? Has he been sending them over to you?
They're in our chat.
I've got a few right here.
Okay.
I'm going to go... I haven't read these yet, so let's see. Oh, God, names. Legendary neurotoxin. Question. How do you feel the idea of player-driven rallying calls, where players make the decision of where to set the stakes down and establish a new city outside the rallying call system?
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting question. Player-driven, so it's sandbox. Do we want players to have that level of control over the world where they can decide, where the main hubs are going to be?
Or maybe even if you want to build your guild hall. So that was something I read recently. Somebody said, what if there's open world PvP? I don't know if they're going to have it. I don't know. But say there is, and you could plop your guild hall down, and then the opposing guild rushes in and takes out your walls and attacks you and knocks your stuff down while you're asleep. It's sort of like a player-built rallying call to maybe rebuild it or something like that you could call everybody from the area, hey, they knocked down my guild hall, you want to help me rebuild it? And then everyone can run around and gather up wood and materials.
I think it's a pretty cool idea, actually, from Toxin there. It's an interesting idea because it gives some kind of manageability in a sandbox universe. It gives sandbox tools to a guild. So the guild leader can say, or the sub-leaders can say, hey guys, here's the list of things that we need to do right now, and if they do those things, it unlocks other activities that they want to see happen as well. Just like a rallying call, but at a guild level, for maybe constructing a player city, or for multiple guilds to interact with each other and construct, guild cities. That could be something that is really, really cool. And it's a really interesting system that I think is definitely worthy of attention of the devs.
Speaking of which, are we going to see, because you can build up all this stuff, everything's going to be sort of sandboxed in an area for the EQNext landmark. How is that going to transition into the real world? Like, are you going to be able to bring in your guild hall that you built in Landmark and plop it down in somewhere in Norath, or is that not going to happen? You guys know?
You should be able to if you make a blueprint of it, and if you have the resources to build it. I don't see why you couldn't.
But then you've got Penis Tower and Mount Boob.
Well, they said very specifically it needs to follow because it'll get vetted in the player studio, won't it? They'll have people checking, going penis, 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 tower. I think penis, penis, penis.
All right. So go ahead. What's the next one there, Locke?
Next question is quite an open one. What feature is from Blue Plane? Is that Amandine?
Yeah, it's
Good
Armandine, your countryman over there.
going. What feature would you like to see in EverQuest Next if you could have a feature implemented? Quite an open-ended one.
Yeah.
It's easy for me. I can go first on that one
Okay, go
because
for it.
epic quests, EQ1 style epic quests. That's what I want to see. I don't want anything difficult and complicated. I still want to have a player-driven crafting organized economy, but I want there to be some kind of level of epic quest because it fits so well with the idea of journeying out in the world and exploring. Procedurally generated, there's a lot of randomness in that too. I think it'd be really cool to have that kind of level of just, this is going to take you months and months. It's almost like a personal rallying call, if you want to put it that way, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to take you months to do, and it can go dynamically in many different directions. Maybe the outcome is different, because you chose certain actions along the way. Oh man, this could go really, really well. Now I'm getting really excited. I think I might be brilliant. This is really cool. So that's what I want.
All right.
Make it so.
How about you, Locke? What would you like to see?
Oh, I suppose it's not really a feature, but something I'd really, really like from an MMO is I'd like the whole game to be built around player interaction. It's a massively multiplayer game. It should be, everything should be focused on the multiplayer. And I know that a lot of players these days like to go it solo, and I think you should be able to do things by yourself. But I'd just like to see systems in the game that really encourage people to group together and experience things together.
Yeah,
Is that a feature?
I don't know. Mine's actually backwards. Mine's things I don't want to see. All right, ready? Here's my list. No mounts.
No mounts.
No mounts. No.
You can't too many caves.
No. Yeah. No. Global auction house.
No global auction.
No global auction house, and no quick travel. Those are my three things I do not want to see in EverQuest Next.
I agree with that. Yeah, spot on.
Okay, yeah. Go big or go home.
Yeah.
That's why
I know that we're all old school and we want some part of EQ1 back, but the run from Freeport to Kinos was epic! And you died 1,000 times. You had to run through the Froglock area and you had to go all these different places and beg for Spirit of the Wolf and get a druid to teleport you somewhere, and it was just, oh my god, it was epic, wasn't it?
But that's the thing. If you make the journey meaningful, then it becomes part of the game. It doesn't become, oh god, I've got to go to this city. It's got, all right, guys, we're gonna move out. We're gonna go to this other place, and we're gonna take this big cart train full of stone bricks that we're going to use to make the fortifications, and it's meaningful and it's part of gameplay rather than just hitting auto run and aiming yourself down the road.
Which hopefully they'll have follow. I do hope they have that, but I think they ruined that for Guild Wars 2 because it was sort of a small game anyway. The area that's in Guild Wars 2 is kind of tiny, and then you could bounce anywhere you wanted to go for just a few copper. I don't know. It really kind of ruined it.
So I think. I was going to say, look, I think in a procedurally generated world that's almost limitless and infinite, and especially with all the caving and mining that needs to happen dynamically when you're exploring, I don't think mounts make a lot of sense. I don't think fast travel makes a lot of sense. Because where are you fast traveling to? Fast travel is by its very nature a fixed system from point A to point B. What happens if point B is overtaken by dragons? I don't know, I guess you could just not have point B be there any longer. But it's kind of weird. It's a weird system. But the game of that size, and for a modern MMO with people with really a lack of tolerance for long journeys that are tedious and boring for a lot of the time, even though sometimes they are epic, I think you need to create some systems that allow for faster travel, even though it's on foot. For example, we've seen that the Karen, can get on all fours and run. I just wanted to clarify that because I think we all agree on that. But I think having things like Spirit of the Wolf or Zephyr boots, as we saw in the video, that replaced the old, J boots that give you the speed boost that were so popular in EQ1. Those types of systems, I think, are a good compromise. You can move faster if you put some effort into being able to, but it's not a gimme that you just jump on a automated flight system and go get your dinner and come back and you've landed at Halas, right?
It creates opportunity cost as well, doesn't it? Because if one of your items of gear is something to make you move faster, that could potentially have ramifications when you do get into combat because you made the choice that you want to go quicker, but then that's a slot that could be taken by something to make your ability powerful.
Exactly. And one of the really important things, just as in the real world, we have space travel, we have airplanes. China is just a day's flights away from most places. The world becomes smaller. And you see that in games like World of Warcraft, where the world becomes very small. Even though it's actually really big,
It is.
it feels really small. In EverQuest 1, the world felt enormous, insurmountable. The exotic regions of, Firot and all these other places, Inithul Swamp, like, whoever goes there, it was like, there's just so much to discover that you felt was so far away. And it really made the game world feel really different and really exciting. And taking out just a little bit of the TDM and making it exciting to go discovery again and go exploring, and to give that world its sense of awesomeness. Over there, and then there are hills, there be gold, right? It's that journey to discover these things again that I think is really, really exciting. And what's just over the next hill. When you don't walk over the hill, you never really care. And I think that's really, really important, because on the other side of that hill could be a whole nother month's worth of exploring. And that's exciting.
Absolutely. I was just showing a clip of Farah there as we were talking about it.
I'm just watching it. It's so pretty.
It looks amazing.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
I just want
All
to
made with
I love
voxels.
the lighting. The way the lighting's going to move across as the sun goes as well, I think just adds so much to the world.
the rays of light coming through.
Yeah.
The PlanetSide 2 Forge Light engine combined with the voxels, procedurally generated, endless options for customizing. All that world that we're seeing right now is created of voxels. The same things that you essentially see in Minecraft, except that in EQNext and EQNext Landmark, they can be smoothed and manipulated and edited in a really powerful way. The same tools the developers use, and that's how they created that environment right there. I mean, that's just amazing. That's essentially Minecraft. That's your landscape of Minecraft, but
Way
on crack.
smoother, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so next one there, Mr. Locke.
Next question. We got from Leg Theory. A contentious point. In a sandbox game, what do you feel compels someone to keep playing since there isn't a defined end game? Do you hope EQN handles that? We went the whole show without mentioning end game, and now
Here we
now
are.
we're to it. Yeah, here we are.
It is the big dragon in the room, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Endgame is one of those things where people have such mixed feelings about it. They want to feel like they've gotten to a point. Like, I have made it to level 90, and I've got tier 13 gear, whatever it is at the time, and I've got the best mount, and I made it. You know what ends up happening at that point? What do? You start over at level 1, where they make another alt, and you do the whole thing over again. And so with a sandbox game, there is no I've made it, other than maybe you've got some really awesome armor, you've got some big, huge, massive mansion that's yours, and you're loaded with gold. Maybe that's the end game. I don't know. What do you think?
In a word, I've talked about this a lot in the last couple of weeks, as I'm sure many people have. In a word, for me, it comes down to aspiration.
Mm-hmm.
There always needs to be something out there in the world that you haven't done yet, that you can visibly see, and it's just chasing the horizon, and always wanting to go that extra. I'm not talking about gear treadmill. I hate gear treadmill, but always something else just peeking at you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think games have kind of made the mistake, especially with PvE content, where they want everyone to be able to do it, and because they want everyone to be able to do it, it means that the very best people, it's no challenge whatsoever, and they steamroll through it, and then the guide gets put up on YouTube the day later, and then because the guys of everyone can do it, it's not like there's a great video, I wish I could remember who did it. There's a great video about what happened to World of Warcraft in this way, where in vanilla and BC, it took a long time to get these raid bosses down, and you had to go, like what Zaphos was saying, you had to go on these big epic quest lines before you could even get, and that was
all
in
the
a theme
keys
park.
and all the attunement and everything.
Everything, all the people you had to talk to, you had to travel the world to even get in there, and then the boss just steamrolled you immediately. And it's that challenge, and it meant that the very best players. I know we're talking about theme park rather than sandbox, but it meant the very best players, the most organised players that were in it to win it, they could do this. And there were big announcements in the capital city, and everyone got buff, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!"
Yeah,
I
I
can't
remember the
believe
Nixia buff. Yep.
they've done it. Yeah, and now looking for raid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that to me is the longevity for the game. I think Warcraft gets away with it just because it's such a big name. People have been playing for so long, and there's that social stickiness, which is social super glue for some people. They're not going to leave.
It's very comfortable. You go back to WoW and you recognize everything, and it's a very comfortable kind of game.
Back to WoW.
Yeah.
But for me, it's that aspirational thing. It's always having something to look forward to, and kind of being like, oh man, I could be that guy. I could be that guy. And just having that world out there to explore and another horizon to chase.
Yeah, I think for me, Endgame has been a big part of a lot of the games I played. I played World of Warcraft a lot. I played other games a lot. I think Endgame, again, it's a semi-lazy modern MMO term that says you followed this treadmill. Now we're going to dump you at the end of the treadmill, and here's what you will have accomplished. At which point it's time to reinvent yourself and get back on the treadmill at the start of it. And it's actually really boring, but players like it because it gives a sense of accomplishment. It becomes a completionist dream. I like to complete things. I get all my achievements, I get all this quest done, I get all my epic armor, I get all my tiers, and then I'm the best, right? Along with all those other 5,000 people who are also the best, right? And so I think what's really important to realize and not be kind of concerned about in a sandbox, a genre I have massive amounts of experience in, is that end game in the sandbox is what you make it. Oh, okay, well that sounds really boring, so I'm not very creative. Okay, you have the same goals. When I was a crafter in Ultima Online, my goals were to be really rich. How rich? Well, I decided how rich, and then I went after it. How many swords I wanted to make that day, how many chess pieces I wanted to make, how many resources I wanted to mine, how many skills I wanted to get in and around crafting, how good of a master swords, crafter I wanted to be. All those different things became individual goals in and of themselves. How much fame I wanted to have in the community, how well known I wanted my weapons to be among adventurers. Those things all became goals that were dynamic and changed as I needed them to. When I changed my profession in Ultima Online to being a player killer, my goal was to not get killed by guards on a daily basis. It was how much loot can I, take from all these innocent standers-by, It was more about how can I play my class and my abilities, my combo to the best possible. When I decided to abandon that life and go live in the forest in a hut and explore the world as a mage in a robe, I remember standing for days on end trying to work out how to master summoning a water elemental reliably. Those are all things and examples of end goals that sandbox games provide. And there's similar ones in like EVE Online. Your goal might be to be a great pirate, and you go out and become better and better at that. You become more stealthy. You become more efficient at killing. You become better at picking your targets. You amass wealth. You avoid guards. All these things become goals that you can attain, but they never end. And by continuing to strive for them, you continue to become more attached to your character, you learn more, you develop more, and you yourself become an integral part of the game world. Absolutely. And that's what happens, right? So instead of having an end game where you're the same as everybody else, you have a unique contribution to the game environment. And that's the best end game of all, right?
Right. I think people are a little bit nervous about it because they have been spoon-fed this stuff for so long. Like, you have to play the character this way. You got to go out and check this certain website to get the exact build, so you know that you're going to be not picked on when you get into the raid, and all this other stuff. And maybe that is kind of going out the window, and it's scary to some people. Change is scary. So I think that's probably what's bothering a lot of people. For just to mention that there's not going to be any end game specifically like they're used to. All right, there, Mr. Locke. What do we got next?
Hit it. Legendary Neurotoxin. Again, thanks for the question. Says, should players be able to organise into a company or trade union that is separate from their guild? Zappos?
That's neat.
Yeah,
trade union of brickmakers.
I think there should be brickmaker trade unions. I do. We should have our rights, we should have benefits, and we should be able to increase the price as and when we see necessary. We should be the Safeway, if we want to use that, or the Tesco's of the Norath world. So, yes, I'm all for trade unions, but realistically, I do think so. The core of the question, should there be tradesmen's guilds that are separate from your own guild? Yes, I do believe that's a good idea. Why? Simply, it's a great system to provide an avenue for alternate ways to advance your character. You can become an apprentice sword maker or brick maker. You can become a journeyman brick maker, and so forth and so on, all the way up to a master brick maker, where your bricks now, glow in the dark and give you jelly beans at night when you're hungry. Whatever it happens to be,
I want
right?
jelly bean bricks.
I mean, they have some kind of benefit because you are a master brick maker. So I think having a guild like that can allow for another avenue for exploration in and separate from your guild.
Awesome. What do you think there, Locke?
I think I would really like to see mechanics and tools put into place for players to create their own organizations. So you have different types of ways to interact with other players and to form groups, more or less permanent groups with other people that are more or less useful, for different situations and different things that you want to do. I hope that makes sense. So let's say instead of just having a guild system where you're either in it or you're not, you could have almost a legal system, almost like a contract system where you can be employed by a trade federation, I don't know, to go out and get the stone that they need to make the bricks that there, and you can have that as a contractor, a freelancer, or maybe you could be in a much more loose, and that was a very definite contract, and you had to stick to that, or you'd be in trouble, with the law for fraud or whatever. But you could make that choice to commit fraud in the first place, perhaps, if it's a sandbox, or perhaps you could be in a bounty hunting organization where it's more code of honor kind of thing, and the legality of it's a lot more kind of flexible, but that's still an organization of players, and that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So you have different opportunities that work better for different types of groups. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Anybody out there Terry Pratchett fans?
I love Pratchett.
All right,
Yeah,
so I want
awesome.
a seamstress union.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
That's the union I want to join.
In that right now.
We haven't gone down that dark alley yet. All right. So what's next?
Dresses? Oh god, let's do it. Question. I haven't got a name for this one. Someone awesome asked us, will alcohol still affect your screen?
Ooh.
I believe it was Alaska Winter 923.
Yeah, that's a good question. No idea. I haven't seen any kind of. That would be cool. I mean, it was like that in all the other games I've played, where you got really drunk and the screen went all fuzzy and. Yeah.
And they've got the voice manipulation for SOE mode as well. Haven't they? So maybe they could slow down your voice a little bit. Who knows?
Wow.
I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
Yeah, and in making you slur in the type chat as well. That's quite funny. That'd be cool. Blue Plane, Amandine, good guy Dean. Do you think they will have a system to protect players' blueprints? For instance, I could see someone building an attempt to copy it. Are you worried there won't be enough copyright protection? I guess so. I mean, if it's for money, does that become a legal issue? I mean,
right. And but honestly, anything you build in Landmark is going to be owned by Sony. Like, you can't hold any pretense that this major castle that I built is awesome and everything. It's not yours. Even if you did build it, it's going to be kind of owned by them. So, you just kind of have to deal with that. But yeah, there is the whole copyright thing. If you made something that was just epic and amazing and was selling like crazy, somebody copies it and then puts that plan back up on the auction house or whatever they have to sell these things. How are they going to be caught? Or I'm sure they'll have some sort of moderation for it. It can't be willy-nilly frontier stuff.
Well, I think I remember the devs said, they're expecting it to be the very unique things and the very elaborate things that sell quite well. So I think if you're building quite generic stuff, it's generic, isn't it? If you build a circular tower with whatever the classic medieval style with the crenellation, whatever, then a lot of people are going to want that sort of structure because it's classic fantasy. Whereas if you make an ice castle, an ice castle mountain with dancing penguins on every windowsill, and it's got tinsel all the way
like
down. I doubt people will be copying that as much.
That's pretty cool though. Neat idea. All right.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
Questions. Legendary Neurotoxin, again, my man, says, should player structures automatically regenerate like terrain, or should they require players to expend resources to restore damage that has been inflicted on their structures?
That's a good point.
It's a Good point. I think this question comes down to whether player structures are going to be permanently destroyable by other players or even by mobs.
We don't know. We have no clue on that yet.
Yeah, I think I saw one of the panels that kind of brought this up. You know, I can't remember if it was this exact question or something very similar. But I think the idea is that these types of modifications would cost resources. So if indeed a player structure is non-protected and is destructible, which we can assume that to be the case for the most part, then I would assume that fixing it would absolutely cost resources, and that's a very good thing. You should not be able to magically conjure bricks, for example, because it eats into my market share, right?
Just for example.
So, that's my idea. I got the bricks.
Yeah, you know, so basically you need to have a supply chain. And having a supply chain is very, very important. Now, what's a supply chain? A supply chain is simply a process, a method for you to go out and make sure you're securing the resources you need to keep building those buildings and keep repairing them. And that drives discovery, that drives exploration, and that drives fun. And so I think that's going to be a huge part of it, is saying, hey guys, you know, we are about to get attacked by the entire orc army because I did bad things with his wife, and you know, they're not happy about it. They're coming down that hill in about a day. You know, maybe we should get some resources to be able to fortify our walls, because if we don't and they break them down, we are toast. You know, those kinds of Custer's Last Stand scenarios are pretty awesome, but just realistically speaking, I think being able to have the resources that you need to continually perpetuate your existence is going to be a big part of the game, and it's a big part of all sandboxes. Resource management is the core of all sandbox games. It's what they're built on, and that's what makes them exciting. So I would believe that to be the case.
Okay, that's a great point. It creates opportunity cost as well. You can either have a nice little town where everyone's got pretty houses, or you can build some actual defenses that are going to actually be defending your town, you know, and then you use resources to build those defenses, and it becomes a status symbol as well. You know, we were talking about endgame. What are we going to be doing every day? Perhaps one thing we're going to be doing is, you know, guild cities, trying to build these frontier towns, or you know, maybe a stop along an important trade route, like as a respite for traveling caravans. I've got this idea in my head that I'd really love to see as people move resources around. You know, that'd be a real kind of status symbol for a guild to have a structure or a fortification in a dangerous area where, you know, there was a very real threat of it being knocked down every day, but you know, they managed to create that at a great cost to themselves but at great benefit to the community at large.
Are the physics going to be there? Because here's what I have envisioned in my head. You build this grand thing and it's your guild hall, everything's cool, and then the other guild can't get close because they've got guards, but that's on the surface. Like, can you dig down and dig a huge pit underneath that's structurally supported, and all you have to do is knock out a few of them and everything collapses? I mean, is that possible? You think that might happen?
I think they've been very cagey about talking about whether structures are going to be destructible by players, and you know, in what circumstances there will be. They talked about, you know, having to flag buildings for destructible by players, which I personally don't like as a solution. I don't think it's a solution to the problem. You know, perhaps there'll be zones in an area that are more for PvP. Like if you want to do that, you can go and build fortifications and have a battle in that area, or you know, perhaps PvP servers where, you know, everything is destructible because that's the way that people want to play, and obviously defenses will play a huge part of that, and breaking down those defenses plays a part.
In Minecraft, if you play on a public server, they have a couple different anti-hack features, and one of them is you could protect your house. So people have got creative ways around it where they've built a huge mound over the top of the house and filled it with lava and all these other things. So yes, the house is still safe, but the entire area is completely destroyed. So I'm sure there's going to be some really creative people out there looking at ways to grief, because once people get into a game and they get bored, they want to grief. Yeah.
They'll look for them, and they'll find some ways as well. Someone will find something. Right, and it'll be hilarious if it's not you.
I'm going to figure it out. We got time for a few more questions, so let's ask some more and we'll wrap it up.
Let's hit it. Legendary Neurotoxin, cheers, says, should players strike... Oh, God, we've been through that one. Blue Plane, my man, hello. Could you guys discuss the facial expression system? Talk about SOE mote.
that is really exciting to me. What's going to happen is it's in EQ2 right now, so if you want to try it out right now, you can. All you need is a webcam, and there's a couple of videos online where they demonstrate it. And if you like smile or frown or like move your head around, the character does exactly what you do, like down to the fine details. And that's in EverQuest 2, where the face has a lot less polygons than what's going to be in EverQuest Next. So I'm excited because I'm not. I always wanted to do machinima, but I'm not a modeler. I can't sit there and go into Maya and move things around bit by bit. But I could easily make myself an Ixar. Did I say that right? Character.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, Ixar. And then make my whole Geek Domo daily news for EverQuest, and I can just film it right there in the game. I think it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to it. So what do you guys think of SOE Emote?
I think it's an incredible tool for videos and things like that, which spread the word of the game and hopefully get more people involved. I think it's great for role players. I think it's a cool thing just to have, like when you stood around with your guild buddies, having a little AFK moment. To be able to interact on that kind of level. I think it's great. It's a kind of extra level of building kind of social bonds with people as well, where you can see their real-time reactions to things, and when people laugh, the character laughs. And I don't know if it's tied into the actual emote system or not, or if there's any broader animations your characters do.
I
or
don't
if
think you even need to. Like, you just laugh, and it's using your microphone on your webcam.
It looks great.
So
and especially with the art style of the game, it really lends itself well.
It does. The only thing I can see is some people were complaining about that. Well, what if I'm in a city and everybody's got their mic turned on and everyone's yelling and laughing and stuff like that? That's old games. Old games where you walked into just an area and it was just the same volume level everywhere. Now it has positional things. So like you're here and you're next to somebody, you're talking to them and you're facing them, you hear the volume coming through both of your headphones. But if you turn your head this way, now you only hear it coming out of this ear. And if you walk away 10 feet, you can barely hear them anymore. And so that's how they're going to be in real life. That's the way it works in real world. So it's the same thing as in the games. They're all based on where you are spatially in the three-dimensional space. You were gonna say something?
I was just going to say, I think there's one thing I can promise you, based on personal experience from other games, is that in every major player city, there will be a naked Karen standing in the main
mailbox?
city on a mailbox, most likely, dancing and doing emotes all day long.
Yeah, it's
part
the
of
law.
Seamstress Union.
It is guaranteed, right? And occasionally he'll have friends.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to happen no matter what. So there is going to be some abuse of that mechanic. To quote somebody I saw on I think it was the SOE live chat. As soon as SOE emotes, SOE emote, whatever it's called, was announced, he said, "Yes, now everybody gets to see my O face." And I think that it's that kind of level of scariness that we're going to have to deal with. Yeah. But at the same time, there'll probably be moderation around it, and I also think that it's going to be really, really interesting. And for machinima artists especially, I think it's going to be really cool. Some of the best vanilla Warcraft days were, machinima stuff that was just absolutely hilarious. And did you notice that, at least in my opinion, as World of Warcraft changed and became the nonsense that it is today, all of that stopped. It all went away.
They went away.
When was the last time you saw a great machinima piece from World of Warcraft?
Not really.
And yet it used to be the core of the community. There used to be some great stuff. So I'm really excited for machinima to come back and be a big part of EverQuest Next community.
I think it's going to be awesome. All right, next luck.
Next, Kelbo asks, there was a good idea on the Facebook page for EverQuest Next about using caravans to haul mass amounts of resources or items. I feel like this could open all kinds of possibilities for player interaction, especially if you consider the need to protect your caravan. What do you think? I think I've made my position on this quite clear. I go on about it all the time, the idea of moving resources around.
Are you talking about like the Dolyak kind of things in Guild Wars 2 where you had to escort the Dolyaks from point A to point B?
I think it's more about materials having size and weight that means they need to be loaded up onto a cart and physically moved across the landscape rather than just being in your backpack.
Yeah, in Minecraft you can carry around 7 or 8 tons of rock. and it's no big deal. You can still hop up and everything. I'm wondering about that, if they're going to have some sort of weight restriction or size restriction for your bag. So you're going to have to dig down a hole, carry 1 or 2 blocks up, set it, and then go back down, get 2 or 3 more blocks, and come back up, and just do some work like that. Or is it going to be mass 75 tons of rock that you can carry all the time?
So for me, it's all about donkeys, right? I mean, donkeys are where it's at. And so, pack mules.
So now.
Right?
So now.
So when I played Ultima Online, my pack mule was my best buddy because I could throw so much more ore into my pack mule and bring it back. The trade-off was that every PKer for 200 miles got an instant text message, hey, Zaphos has a pack mule filled with ore on the way back to town, right? So it was kind of that type of thing. What I always thought was funny, though, about the PKers is they didn't want to carry the ore either. So they'd attack you, take all your arrows, take your armor, and take your magical reagents for casting spells, and leave all the ore on the ground so you can always come back and get it. Mm-hmm. But they didn't want to do the dirty work. But I think Darkfall and Holy Wars has a caravan system like Locke's talking about, where regional trading is really important and hub trading. EVE Online has courier missions and has the ability to run missions and be a supply element, part of a supply chain, and resupplying either really dangerous areas or very safe areas and everything in between. I think a game like EverQuest Next has a potential to really allow for that, because if you look at a map of Norath, the new map that they've presented, not everywhere has mountains. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that not everywhere can have mithril? And does that mean that the Clockwork Mining Corps with Zaphos can go mine mithril bricks and port those bricks via big caravans and hefty, mind-controlled orc warriors down to the south of the continent to supply other people that can't necessarily get mithril as easily? There's a lot of cool options for that. I think that it could be something really exciting and a big part of the game. Mm-hmm. Getting attacked by orc warbands and having to protect yourself from them. And it's a great piece of history. It's a great thing, Robin Hood and his merry men, and all these things we see in these great movies. And I think it'd be really cool.
Yep. All right, we only got a few more minutes, so go ahead, Locke. Let's get some more.
No worries, let's do it. Zukako, I'm sorry if I mutilated your name, says, how will the guilds relate to other guilds? Will we be able to call our allies to our aid, and will they get rewarded for doing so, for coming to their aid?
I haven't seen anything at all about the guild system and how it's going to interact. How about you?
I hope so. The system I was talking about earlier with different types of organizations, I hope is something that supports this through things like mercenaries, or maybe a guards guild or something, hired watchmen or something. Maybe a state funded police type system. Who knows? Yeah. I hope so.
All right, what do you think, Nick Zaphos?
I think how will guilds relate to other guilds? I think there's going to be inevitable alliances. I mean, there's two different scenarios here. One's a PvP server or a PvP enabled, and PvP not enabled. PvP not enabled, I think we'll see trade alliances. PvP enabled, I think we'll see trade alliances and mercenary war alliances. That's going to be something very, very interesting. On a PvP server, like say EVE Online, you have the opportunity for massive guild alliances that control the game and that fight against other massive guild alliances for control of resources. As I said earlier, a sandbox game, resources, number one thing. So it's all about controlling those resources in a PvP environment. And very quickly, in a sandbox game, it's not about, hey, let's just go out and kill somebody. I mean, the odd parrot does that. It's more about how can we PvP to take control of precious resources. Mm-hmm. In a sandbox game with no PvP and a PvE type environment, it's all about for trading resources, trading in a peaceful way, and how you can help each other and build cities. So, and I think that right away out of the gate, I don't expect any kind of pure political system. I think it's something we'll see added later, but I think it's something that players will create in an ad hoc fashion, kind of as they go, and I think it's definitely going to be part of the game.
Just along those lines, you are all familiar with the guild system that they had in Guild Wars 2. What did you think about the ability to have guild hop and just go in and out? You think that's something that's...
They added it in because they wanted people to be able to form different social groups. That didn't happen for me. I'm part of a hardcore guild in Guild Wars 2, and they said, we want you to represent our guild. We want you to be playing for us and coming on raids.
Not being in 27 other guilds.
It didn't affect me at all.
Yeah, I didn't like it much.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I mean, I think you pick your colors, you fly your flag, and you're flying proud, and you go with that.
All right, so
The thing with Guild Wars 2 is like it allowed you to be a more of a social butterfly if you wanted to, but it didn't create a social network at the same time. And I think it was the lack of network. You know, it was lots of little islands rather than being a sort of web that brought people together. It isolated people.
It did isolate. You know, you'd log in and you'd be like, oh, there's nobody in my in this guild. Let me switch to the other guild. Oh, there's 5 people on. Maybe we can do a raid or something.
Right.
All right. What's next? Let's. We got like 2 more questions, I think.
Oh God, do we? I'm at the end of my list of questions.
Oh,
anyone want to throw some out?
No, if you're done. Wait, we got a couple here. Let's go up. I just saw a couple questions in the chat. Lexter, anyone worried about Prosby Bensat 1 running the EU servers? Prosy Bensat 1? You guys are in the EU. What do you think about that? I know nothing about that in the US here.
Apparently, they have a history of poor service compared to other companies. I've never experienced any problems with SOE products coming over from Europe, so I can't really comment. But I think a lot of people are worried about certain customer service issues that have happened in the past. Apparently, though. It's just a kind of customer-based service, and I think that's because of legal and tax issues that are different in the EU and in North America. But apparently, you will be playing on SOE servers, so we can rely on the servers. And fingers crossed, there won't be any problems with this. But we can only hope. They still have a business relationship, and obviously SOE are acutely aware of the problems. So I guess fingers crossed. Just gotta hope.
Yeah, you're the only one here with the experience. So, all right, one last question here. This will be our last one. How will you react to botting? I think it's been a problem in every MMO, and always feel sucky when I try my beep off for something, and then my friend lets its PC turn on during the work and gets it. I guess I'm reading this wrong, but basically he's saying, what do we think about bots?
I hate bots and I hate botters. I hate all kinds of cheating or getting if you're gonna cheat, you're not playing a game, and that's that's I'm there because I want to play a game, and if you're gonna mess with that, I'm gonna be angry on the internet. I'll tell you.
Internet rage.
Well,
he took my cloud song.
You know what I want? I want a game where you can't bot, because you have to be a person to play it. I want a game that is sophisticated enough and offers enough variety and challenge that a bot can't do anything. That's what I want. You're going to get people hacking the game, who are annoying as hell, and hopefully will just get banned. But I want a game that wouldn't be possible for a bot. I want a game that you couldn't multi-box. Mm-hmm. So we're in what year is this? Who's the president? We're in year 2013. 2013. We're in the 21st century, and you can make a bot program to run around and farm resources. What kind of games are we playing?
Yeah,
I think the thing with bots is
make a bot to play Minesweeper for you. It's the same.
Exactly.
It's the same.
I think you're going to get bots in a game that has a definitive currency, because that's what they want to trade in, right? So if you don't have a definitive currency and you have a complex AI that gets them killed all the time, or you have other players that lead them off cliffs and things, that also helps. So I expect to see bots initially in EQNext. I do, because the first thing they'll try to do is work out, can I create a bot that goes out and does nothing but chop wood all day or mine ore? Mm-hmm. And that is feasible. That's possible. The question then becomes what they do with that, and is the economy set up in such a way to reward that? If they reward it, then yes, there will be bots, and they'll be pretty hard to catch, I anticipate, in a sandbox game. They usually are. Right. But we can absolutely be certain that people will try, the companies will try to create them, especially if the game's popular. But I think it's going to be a lot harder. I think that the higher up in tiers of advancement that you go, and the more deep into the game you get, the harder it will be for bots to be relevant. I do think that players will dominate the economy to an extent that bots will become mostly irrelevant. So I think that's what generally will happen. In Lineage 2, we saw bots control dungeons. Mm-hmm. Bots from China, whatever, would go out. They would go into a dungeon. They would farm that dungeon, and they would set ultra tough bot guards at the door, and any players that tried to come in would get killed.
Wow.
And so that was a very advanced type of coordinated botting, and we may see some of that in EQNext. But since then, of course, the techniques to combat them have advanced as well. So I expect we'll see them. I don't expect they'll be as much of a factor.
Okay. All right,
I hope we'll see. Remember in the reveal where you saw the wizard put the walls up? I
Yes.
hope in the forest around starting areas we see lots of little boxes of them, just with bots doing a little circle around.
Held
I could
in.
sit and watch that for
Can't
hours.
move. All right, so I guess that wraps it up for this very first episode of Into the Portal, an EverQuest Next discussion. I've been joined by my friends Locke and Zaphos, and this has been Geek Domo. Our show is sponsored by EQNexus, so make sure everybody goes over there, signs up. It's a great EverQuest Next community, and they're very active, very good forums. And I think next week we're going to start covering what was announced at Gamescom this week. So we're going to do this show next week. We're all excited about that. So that's coming.
Can't wait.
And and we have some more shows coming up. We're going to have some authors from Sony that are going to come and join us, and we have some other people from the actual Sony company that are going to SOE that are going to come and join us for the next couple of shows. So lots of exciting stuff coming up in the weeks ahead, and I appreciate you guys for doing a great job today. It was a great show.
Well, thank you so much, Domo.
Thanks,
for having
Tomo.
me.
Yep.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
It was really
And
good.
thanks EQNexus. Absolutely brilliant source of information on the game. They're doing a great job over there. So cheers for having me.
Yep.
Us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And don't forget where you're going to get your bricks.
Yes. Everybody
Yeah.
goes to
Cool.
Zaphos. Okay, yeah, so real quick, I'm Geek Domo down there. That's my Twitter. Locke is Lock6Time, and Zaphos is Clockwork Zaphos Brickmaker.
Extraordinary.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. And until next time, I'm going to say, see ya!